Hey guys, and welcome into my review of the hang on, wait, what's this? Sinclair ZX Spectrum plus 228K. What's that? That's not an NES. Well, it came before the NES, and it was bigger in the UK than the Atari 2600. It even has cassettes. Yes, I'm not even kidding. It used cassettes. Many of you probably experienced the PlayStation 1 watching this video. That was kind of the era most YouTubers are now. So you're looking at a console from 1983. This was based as a computer system, and it ran cassettes. Here is chess on the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. The only reason I'm showing this to you is because this was the last of, well, the last of really the computer systems anyway, until games consoles really took over. One of the last anyway. Wasn't exactly the last, but the crash in 1983 brought down most games consoles. The Atari 2600 especially died off. The 500, well, whatever. But that Atari console didn't do very well either. So the Atari consoles all died out, and so did these. So what could revigorate the games, well, community? Well, a little console or games machine or toy called the NES, Nintendo Entertainment System. NES version, well, as opposed to the fake version. And as you can see, it's a beast. It's huge. This thing is absolutely massive. It's made of plastic, as you can possibly see, and it is pretty big. So yeah, the NES. As I said, they used cassettes. Old games consoles in the UK. We were kind of a computer-based gaming community. The US was more cartridge-based, like the Ataris and stuff like that. And when this came out in the UK, it wasn't as well received as I think as the Sega Master System was. The Sega Master System did really well in the UK, and the Nintendo didn't seem to do as well. So what kind of cartridges does this take? Well, it takes these out of the toaster kind of system. I love the design of this console. It basically is kind of a toaster. You put it in there, and Bionic Commando, one of the best games I've ever played, and just brilliant. So these cartridges are absolutely huge compared to basically a cassette tape. As you can see there, I can give you a comparison. The NES cartridges are massive. So I don't know. The only problem with the NES that I could see is the fact that when you put in your games cartridge, if you can see in there, basically there is a 32-pin adapter thing, basically that takes the chipset. You put it in there, and every time you put that in, it kills slightly the NES. It will damage the NES every time you do it. Most people will experience it now. If you go back to your NES now, it may not work. So you can buy those things in there, the chips or the adapters. You can buy those separately online, which will fix the problem. Mine is not very good at all. You put the game in there, and it would take at least what, 5 tries putting it in. Because you put them in like that, you push them in, and then you push them down, and it kind of holds them in. It has kind of a spring mechanism, as you can see there, and it has this little flap, which I don't think you need, but it definitely keeps the dust out. On the front you have 2 controller ports, 1 and 2, and I have a controller here somewhere to show you actually. And the controllers, as you can see, you've got your D-pad, your B and A, which I always thought was kind of weird. Why not A and B? But the controllers, I absolutely love these controllers. They are simple and small. If I can get the wrapping off the the wires here. The size is great. They are kind of uncomfortable, obviously, because it is a rectangle. So every time you try and hold it, your arm, your hand is holding onto the edge, and it will start to dig in. So it's not exactly the most comfiest of controllers. The only thing I can say is the buttons feel really responsive, and it's one of the best controllers I've ever used. Of course, it hasn't got an analog stick, because analog sticks didn't really exist until PS1, apart from, of course, the N64, which, of course, had a analog stick, but that was kind of one of the first ones to do it. So, the NES had quite a few attachments, including the NES zapper, shown here by the ZX Spectrum Sinclair gun, which it looks, I got to admit, it looks almost exactly the same. So, I don't know, I thought the NES was the first one to do this with the gun, but apparently not. Seeing as this, the Sinclair ZX Spectrum gun looks almost exactly the same. And not many people have these, so I was kind of shocked, and I don't really know how they would work with cassette games. I never really worked that one out, so I don't think I have any games to actually use it on. But the NES came with the Rob the Robot. Was it Rob the Robot? Yeah, it came with that robot attachment thing that basically, there's a few games you could play with it, only like 2, I think. And he would control, and you could kind of control him to move stuff to play the game, which I think was revolutionary back then, but they didn't really... Nintendo's problem, I think, is the fact that they don't kind of continue... They have ideas, but they don't really do them very well. They don't continue them. They'll have an idea, go, oh, that's really cool, release a bit of it, and then go, well, I don't really know if we're going to continue with that. Yeah, I'm going to give up on it. Which is an issue, I think. And Nintendo have always done that, I think, with most of their consoles. The NES, the GameCube had 3D support, they never continued it. So did the Game Boy Advance. I think it was the SP that had a 3D support, they never continued that. And there are quite a few small problems with Nintendo, and especially the Wii as well. But this console, I think, really brought gaming back from the brink, because gaming kind of died in 1983, and arcades slowly were dying as well, which was a problem. Until, of course, the home consoles came in, and this was one of the first home consoles. Of course, the Magnavox Odyssey was the first home console, and of course then the Ataris, but this is one of the first kind of casual pick it up as a toy kind of games consoles. I think that's what made it sell so well in the US. It was just easy, and I think it was cheap as well. So the NES, absolutely great console. I have Super Mario Bros. 3. I got this a year and a half ago, and I have Super Mario Bros. 3 and Bionic Commando. I really definitely recommend Bionic Commando, because it's possibly one of the best games on the console. The music is absolutely amazing in the game, and it just is a great game. I love this game, basically, and Super Mario Bros. 3 is a classic as it is. I don't know where that is, I can't actually show you that, but yeah. I'm going to show you guys something. I got in contact with Gamester81 and MetalJesusRocks to ask for their opinion on the NES, because my opinion obviously isn't correct at all. Don't believe what I say, I'm completely idiotic. So I will now show you Gamester81, who is a brilliant YouTuber. Check him out, youtube.com/Gamester81, and he has his own opinions on the console, and I'd like to show you that. So here you go.
Hello, this is John, also known as Gamester81 here on YouTube, and this video is for Jamie. He wanted me to talk about the NES, Nintendo Entertainment System, and some of my thoughts about the system and why it's one of my favorites, and some of my favorite games, and how it's influenced the gaming industry. Well, it was it wasn't my very first system. My very first system was a ColecoVision, but it was my very first system that I got into where everyone on the block had it. I remember growing up, everyone in my neighborhood had a Nintendo, and after school they would have Nintendo set up, and it was really awesome to see all that, because you know, I could bring games over to my friend's house, we'd borrow games. It was back in the day where I actually went to Blockbuster to rent games, so it was you know, some of the games themselves were very influential as far as how games are today. You've got the Mario games, for example, and Super Mario Brothers was one of the first games I saw that had like a linear story to it, where it was a side-scroller, obviously, you know, platformer. But before that, games like Pac-Man and Donkey Kong, they were just one screen, and there's action, where this was unique. There's a world, there's a story, you're Mario, you're supposed to save a princess from Bowser. And that was kind of a unique thing to gaming. And Nintendo really brought back Nintendo back into the market, and really saved the gaming industry, because there was a video game crash in '83, and it was until '85 when Nintendo came over with the success of the Famicom in Japan, and they call it the entertainment system. They market it with Rob the Robot, and they were kind of hesitant to call it a video game system because they knew how there's a bad taste in consumers' mouths with how the gaming industry was handled before. So they bundled it with a whole bunch of really interesting accessories. They call it the entertainment system. And I think it's safe to say that Nintendo is still one of the leading companies in the gaming industry today with the Wii, the wireless remote. They didn't create the whole motion control, but they definitely made it mainstream. They're still doing it, very influential. Some of my favorite games for the NES are Mario Brothers 3. I really enjoy that game. Contra is classic, and you get the up, up, down, down, left, right. The Konami code, everyone knows that, who knows Contra. You also have Mega Man series, which is awesome. As far as baseball games are concerned, I love Bases Loaded. I love Baseball Stars as well. You've got hockey. I mean, there's a ton of sports games for Nintendo. There's a lot of really games that aren't very good, to be honest with you, but even those games have a place in the entertainment system. So overall, big fan of Nintendo. Entertainment system, the NES, came out in '85, which is hard to believe. Makes me feel old thinking about it. It's still one of my favorite systems of all time, and it will always be one of my favorite systems.
So yeah, that's really cool. MetalJesusRocks. MetalJesusRocks is a great YouTuber. He does a lot of retro stuff. YouTube.com/MetalJesusRocks, and he has some really cool kind of ideas on the console. And he's a great guy. So I want you to check this video out as well to kind of see his opinion on the console.
Hello, I'm the Metal Jesus, and I'm coming to you from beautiful Seattle, Washington. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about the original Nintendo Entertainment System. This is my original that I had as a boy. And I think it's kind of interesting, the design of this console, especially if you know the history of consoles and gaming in the 80s. In 1983, there was a huge video game crash that essentially a lot of people were really scared to even jump into the market and try to release games. And Nintendo knew that was going on in America, and so they very smartly made this look more like an appliance. A lot of people, consider this to look almost like a toaster. I mean, it's not exactly the most beautiful console, but they did it so that way when you played your games, you had to insert your cartridge in here and then close, you would close the lid, and it really wouldn't look like a gaming console. I mean, it was almost a way of kind of trying to sneak it into homes at the time and tell Americans that no, it was okay to have a gaming console again, especially after Atari had crashed and burned and all that sort of stuff. But what I really think that made the original Nintendo so amazing was, of course, the games. And very specifically, I think the reason why that is because in the very early consoles like the Atari 2600, the 5200, the ColecoVision, the Intellivision, even the Vectrex, most of those games were kind of emulating what was in the arcades. So games were designed to eat quarters. They were designed to be played, for 5-10 minutes at the most, kill you off and have you put in another quarter, or have somebody walk up and play a game and make money. And so a lot of the games that you had at the time, part of it was the limitation of the hardware too, but they were really just designed to be quick, little, almost casual games. There wasn't a lot of depth to them. I mean, you'd eat pellets in Pac-Man. I don't know, maybe you'd shoot, Space Invaders, things like that. But there wasn't a lot of depth to them. And especially when you go back and play them today, you can really tell. Well, Nintendo rightfully released games, and had a console like this that basically was able to have games like Zelda and Final Fantasy and Metroid that were designed with stories, with many different levels, with characters, with backgrounds. You'd have dialogue. You'd have really deep combat systems. You would have games that would take you 10, 20, 30 hours to play, and also even have batteries in them to save your progress. And so this was a much different shift than the Atari 2600 days. And so when the Nintendo came out, it was just so different of an experience that I think a lot of people like me, and obviously millions and millions of gamers out there, just that was it. I mean, it was like whatever became before, that was a previous generation, but now it's something bigger and better. And so Nintendo really brought that on and just sort of revolutionized everything. The other thing that they did, which I think was very smart, is that they had a seal of approval. And so a lot of these games, you know, you'll see that Nintendo seal of approval. And the reason for that is because on the Atari 2600, Atari didn't really have a good grasp on quality control. It was very easy for third-party companies to just pump out crap, and you would go as a consumer, as a young boy, I did this many times, and buy a game that would work on your console, but the crap was terrible. Sometimes it was broken. So Nintendo very smartly as well learned from the video game crash and said, we will try to control that. Now, I think a lot of people think that they took too much control over that, but in the long run, I think it was for the best. And so that's some of the reasons why I think the original NES is so important to this day. It's the reason why people can go back and play them, because the games are so well made. They're still a lot of fun. All right, I want to thank you for watching my video. Take care.
So I'd just like to say a big thank you to everyone who supported me in this video. It's my as you can possibly tell, my video looks slightly less like good than theirs, and I that's one of the things I wasn't thinking about when I was asking them. I was like, oh yeah, it's gonna be really cool. You guys are amazing, and I'm just some guy sat at a couch with a Furby and Friends box sets and an NES. So thank you so much to you both, really. So my final verdict on the NES: just buy it. If you see one online, this console, basically the PS1, wouldn't be here without the NES. Neither would the PS2, PS3, Xbox 360, Xbox, GameCube, N64, GoldenEye would not be here if it wasn't for this console. I think you owe it to yourself. If you're a retro collector or just a gaming enthusiast, pick up the NES. Because really, it's one of the best games consoles out there. And it's easily fixable if it breaks down. And I really love the console. So go check it out. Amazon it or eBay it. You can pick one up for about $50, maybe less. If you're looking for one, but if you're looking for one in good condition, I think I paid about £90 for this and games and stuff. So you may be looking at about $100 for a really nice one like this, because I can't tell any. The only problem with this one, of course, is the whole adapter. I don't know what to call it. The cartridge slot. The cartridge slot. There you go. The cartridge slot card in there. It isn't very good. It's obviously been used a lot back in the 80s. So. Yeah, that's one issue, and I think it's easily fixable though, and only involves a bit of soldering inside, which doesn't take very long. So yeah, my review of the NES is a buy, definitely. Thanks for watching. I'm going to get out of here, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd just like to say another thank you. I'll put their links down below in the review. So yeah, thanks for watching, but until next time, that's me, out.